you gonna bring some clowns next week?
Yeah, they won't be as well endowed.
Go a little forward, now go back.
What?
Back!
Aw, you broke the radio.
Life behind reality TV isn't as harmless as it seems. Behind the bidding wars and locker jackpots of storage wars is a more sobering reality shaped by devastating loss. Over the years, several cast members connected to the show have passed away, some after long illnesses, others in sudden and unexpected circumstances. From familiar faces to lesser-known figures, these cast members' stories didn't end under the bright lights of the auction floor. What really happened to them, and what challenges did they face on and off screen? Join us as we uncover the Storage Wars cast members who passed away. Gunter Nezhoda. Gunter Nezhoda, father of the Storage Wars star Renee Nezhoda, passed away peacefully in his sleep on March 21, 2023, at the age of 67. Diagnosed with lung cancer 6 months before his death, Gunter's family held on to hope despite the grim prognosis. However, doctors determined his lungs were too damaged for treatment to be effective, leaving his loved ones to watch as the illness progressed. To fans of Storage Wars, Gunter was the supportive, easygoing father who occasionally joined Renee and his wife, Casey Nezhoda, on the show between 2015 and 2019. Nevertheless, his life before reality television was anything but ordinary. Born on January 8, 1956, in Vienna, Austria, Gunter grew up immersed in music. He spent a decade in Germany mastering the bass guitar before moving to Las Vegas, where he performed alongside notable rock figures. Gunter's battle with cancer was brutal. Though he had quit smoking years earlier, decades of exposure had taken a toll on his lungs. Chemotherapy, which was intended to save him, caused complications that worsened his condition. An urgent transfer to Salt Lake City for emergency surgery came too late, as the damage was irreversible. Those who knew him remember Gunter as warm, approachable, and genuine. Renee also said that his father never really got any hate on the show, and even the famously competitive Dave Hester acknowledged Gunter's softer side, showing the respect he commanded among colleagues. Fans and loved ones remember him not only for his role on television, but also for the extraordinary legacy he left behind in music, photography, and film. While Gunter Nezhoda's life was marked by passion and creativity, not all Storage Wars tragedies were slow and expected. Some cast members faced sudden and shocking endings. Mark Balelo. Mark Balelo arrived on Storage Wars in 2011 with unmistakable energy. As someone flashy, confident, and quick to spend, he stood out immediately among the seasoned bidders. His bold personality earned him the nickname Rico Suave, a label given by Brandy Passante that perfectly captured his style. For a moment, it seemed like he was on track to become one of the show's defining personalities. But his time on the series was brief. Behind the charisma was a more complicated reality. In 2012, Mark faced legal trouble tied to a prior 2009 drug-related offense. Reports indicated that he violated the terms of his probation, which led to a 45-day jail sentence. The violation reportedly stemmed from leaving the state with a firearm he had discovered in a storage unit. This was an act that drew legal consequences, despite the unusual context of his work. Those close to him, however, described a different side of Mark, one that viewers rarely saw. His then-girlfriend, Elizabeth Metsidis, spoke publicly in his defense, emphasizing his generosity and personal commitments. She noted his involvement in charitable efforts, particularly his support for autism awareness. According to her, Mark would sometimes donate entire storage units at auctions to raise money for the cause. Mark also ran a liquidation and auction business, navigating the unpredictable world of abandoned storage units long before reality TV brought it into the spotlight. His success in that space helped shape the confident persona viewers saw on screen. A man comfortable taking risks and making fast decisions under pressure. However, in February 2013, events took a sudden and tragic turn. Just days after Mark was arrested on a methamphetamine-related charge, he was found dead inside his vehicle in California. The 40-year-old man died of asphyxiation from carbon monoxide and exhaust fumes. It was, however, believed that he had intentionally taken his own life. The news of his unexpected death sent shockwaves through those who knew him and the broader Storage Wars community. A&E, the network behind the show, released a statement expressing deep sadness over the loss and extending condolences to his family. Fellow cast members also reacted with grief. Though his time on Storage Wars was short, Mark Balelo remains a memorable figure from the show's early years. Despite the sudden and tragic death of Mark, another cast member left a lasting legacy before his death. Morris "Mo" Prigoff. Morris "Mo" Prigoff brought a different kind of presence to Storage Wars, Texas, when he appeared in its early run in 2011. He approached every locker with the eye of a collector and the instincts of a seasoned dealer. His antique business, River Regency Modern in Dallas, became an extension of his career. Unlike many of his competitors, Mo wasn't driven purely by resale value. He had a deep appreciation for craftsmanship, often drawn to pieces that carried artistic or historical weight. That passion gave him an edge, but it also set him apart. Away from the auctions, Mo lived a life that contrasted sharply with the fast-paced bidding wars. For more than 4 decades, he practiced podiatric medicine in Dallas, treating patients with care. He trained at the Ohio College of Podiatric Medicine and built a respected career, becoming a member of the Texas Podiatric Medical Association. Antiques, however, remained his enduring passion. For over 30 years, Mo collected and dealt in furniture and art, eventually turning that passion into a business long before television found him. By the time Storage Wars Texas introduced him to a wider audience, he had already spent years refining his eye and building his reputation. On screen, that experience showed. He moved with the confidence of someone who understood both the value of objects and the stories behind them. As the series progressed, subtle changes in Mo's presence became noticeable. By the 3rd season, his appearances were fewer than before, and something about his energy felt different. What viewers didn't see was the private battle unfolding behind the scenes. Around 2015, Mo was diagnosed with a serious, long-term illness. He chose not to make it public, instead stepping back from the spotlight and focusing on his health and family life with his wife, Michaela. For years, he fought quietly. On March 4, 2021, Morris Prigoff passed away at the age of 78, surrounded by his family. While the exact cause of death was not publicly disclosed, it followed a prolonged illness that had gradually taken its toll. From Mo's legacy to another cast member who had to fight for his survival, his story took a very different turn. Barry Weiss. This white-bearded man was more than just a buyer on Storage Wars. In fact, many called him the heart of the show's golden era. With his eccentric style and endless budget for bizarre treasures, Barry Weiss turned storage auctions into performance acts. Once, he bought a locker for $3,400 just to see what was inside, joking that he simply loved the mystery. He drove custom cars around auction yards and often showed up with his friend Kenny, treating each locker like a potential adventure. But in April 2019, this man, who had spent years chasing treasure on television, came terrifyingly close to losing it all. It happened in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. Barry was riding a motorcycle with his friend Jamie, and neither of them saw the car pull out from a parking space until it was too late. The impact was brutal. Barry's motorcycle slammed into the side of the car, throwing him onto the pavement with a force that shattered bones and caused severe injuries. Jamie was also thrown, suffering his own injuries. By the time paramedics arrived, Barry was fighting for his life. He had to be airlifted to a hospital. He suffered a broken back that required emergency spinal surgery. His femur was also broken, and he had severe chest trauma and multiple internal injuries that required immediate attention. For days, he lay in the ICU, his body held together with metal plates and screws. As news of the accident spread, fans began to wait and pray. Weeks passed without any word from Barry or his family, and a lot of people thought he had died. However, Barry fought for his life. And by the fall of 2019, 3 months after the accident, Barry left the hospital walking with a walker still. He walked out alive. After this shocking experience, Barry did something no one expected. In 2021, he returned to Storage Wars. His comeback excited fans who had spent years wondering if they would ever see him again. After surviving a near-fatal accident, Barry Weiss's story gives way to another Storage Wars cast whose health scare shook fans. Daryl Sheets. Daryl Sheets, widely known as the Gambler on Storage Wars, built his reputation on instinct and risk-taking. But in March 2019, far from the auction floor, he faced a life-threatening moment that had nothing to do with storage units or strategy. Daryl was attending a concert by Justin Timberlake when he suddenly began experiencing symptoms of a heart attack. Despite feeling unwell, he managed to stay through part of the show, later joking online, "At least I made part of the show." What initially seemed like a mild episode quickly escalated into something far more serious. After being rushed to the hospital, doctors discovered the true extent of the danger. Daryl had a severely blocked artery, about 95% obstructed, in what is commonly referred to as the widowmaker, one of the most dangerous types of coronary blockages due to its high fatality risk if untreated. He underwent emergency surgery, during which 2 stents were inserted to restore blood flow. The diagnosis also revealed congestive heart failure, a condition that meant his heart was no longer pumping as efficiently as it should. What made the situation even more alarming was how close he had come to death. Daryl later admitted that he had been feeling unwell for months, but had not acted on it. In hindsight, he realized the initial heart attack may have saved his life by forcing medical intervention before a complete blockage occurred. He also revealed he was living with diabetes and had developed a lung infection, both of which complicated his overall health. In April 2019, Daryl shared another sobering update. He had actually suffered 2 heart attacks in quick succession. Despite the severity of his condition, his recovery began to take shape as he got better faster than what the doctors thought. Doctors monitored his progress closely, but he was ultimately spared from needing additional procedures such as the implantation of a pacemaker or a cardioverter defibrillator. However, his recovery was not immediate or easy. It required lifestyle changes, ongoing medical care, and a renewed focus on his health, and Daryl approached it with determination. By 2020, he marked a major milestone: 1 full year of survival since the incident. Daryl Sheets' health scare was intense, but Dan Dotson's, another cast member's medical crisis, was even more dangerous. Dan Dotson. Dan Dotson is best known for the rapid-fire chant that defines Storage Wars. But in June 2014, his voice signaled something far more serious. Late one night, while at home with his wife, Laura Dotson, he began speaking incoherently, asking questions that didn't make sense. It was subtle at first, but enough to raise concern. By the next morning, the situation escalated. After stepping out of the shower, Dan suddenly collapsed. Laura immediately called emergency services. What followed was a race against time. As Dan lost consciousness, his condition deteriorated rapidly. His skin turned blue and green as his body struggled for oxygen. In those critical moments, Laura and their son acted without hesitation. She later recalled how they performed CPR, administering mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, until paramedics arrived. Fortunately, their quick response kept him alive long enough to reach the hospital. Doctors soon identified the cause: a subarachnoid hemorrhage, a life-threatening type of stroke caused by bleeding in the space surrounding the brain. In Dan's case, it was triggered by not one, but two aneurysms located in different areas. The prognosis was grim. At best, doctors estimated his chance of survival to be between 4% and 20%. Emergency surgery was the only option. The procedure aimed to stop the bleeding and stabilize the aneurysms, but the risks were immense. For his family, the hours that followed were filled with uncertainty, and his children panicked. Survival was not guaranteed, and even in the best-case scenario, the potential for long-term neurological damage was high. Against the odds, the surgery was successful. Dan survived the immediate crisis and began a slow, closely monitored recovery. The experience marked a turning point. Laura later shared that Dan made a firm decision to quit smoking, recognizing it as a major risk factor that had contributed to his condition. It was a necessary change, not just for recovery, but for survival. Remarkably, Dan's return to normal life came sooner than many expected. As his strength improved, he resumed his role as an auctioneer, stepping back into the fast-paced environment of storage wars. Dan Dotson survived against the odds, but even the famously tough Dave Hester would encounter his own health scare. Dave Hester. Whether it was his intention or not, Dave Hester quickly established himself as the villain of storage wars. His signature "Yoop" echoed across auction yards. While other bidders built alliances, Hester thrived on disruption, often driving up prices and tension in equal measure. Off-screen, his relationship with the show was just as turbulent. In 2012, Hester filed a lawsuit against A&E, alleging wrongful termination and claiming aspects of the series were staged. The dispute drew significant attention, pulling back the curtain on reality television's inner workings. Although the case was eventually settled under undisclosed terms, Hester returned to the show, resuming his role as its most polarizing figure. For all his on-screen bravado, 2019 brought a moment that stripped everything back to something far more serious. Hester experienced a sudden and alarming health episode that began while he was at home. He woke up struggling to breathe, unaware that he had been living with undiagnosed sleep apnea, a condition that can severely disrupt breathing during sleep. What started as confusion and distress quickly escalated into a medical emergency. The episode developed into a hemorrhagic stroke, a severe form of stroke caused by bleeding in the brain. Fortunately, Hester was not alone. His girlfriend recognized that something was seriously wrong and acted quickly, ensuring he received urgent medical attention. That response proved critical. Early intervention gave him a fighting chance, preventing the situation from worsening into a coma or more extensive brain damage. Even so, survival was only the beginning. He missed the past 3 seasons of the show for the period he had a medical emergency. The aftermath of the stroke also left Hester physically impaired. He temporarily lost the ability to walk and struggled with basic motor functions. His recovery required weeks in a physical rehabilitation facility, where he worked to rebuild strength and independence. While Dave Hester battled a stroke, Jared Schultz, another big influence on the show, suffered personal struggles and navigated life with several highs and lows. Jared Schultz. At age 33, Jared Schultz had already built his reputation on hustling and taking risks. When he first appeared on Storage Wars alongside Brandy Passante, the pair quickly stood out as the young guns. The couples were highly competitive and willing to take risks that the older bidders sometimes avoided. Their chemistry, both personal and professional, became a defining part of the show's dynamic, as they soon became fan favorites. Behind the scenes, however, that partnership carried its own pressures. Running a business together while navigating the unpredictability of reality television placed constant strain on their relationship. They also battled financial pressure, and huge losses were a constant reality for them. Running their thrift store business came with inconsistent profits, and not every locker delivered the big wins viewers saw on screen. By 2019, after years of working and appearing side by side, Jared and Brandy separated. For fans who had followed their journey from the beginning, the split came as shocking, unexpected news. It also marked the end of one of the show's most recognizable duos. The situation took a more serious turn in 2021. Jared was arrested following an alleged altercation involving Brandy, an incident that quickly drew public attention. The confrontation escalated during a disagreement, leading to legal consequences that further complicated their already fractured relationship. Jared was arrested and charged with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. The case affected him badly and nearly made him lose everything he had spent years building. For Jared, the fallout represented one of the most difficult periods of his time connected to Storage Wars. Years later, Jared stayed away from Brandy totally, although they still meet at a few auctions. He also stepped away from the spotlight that once defined his career. Although he remains connected to the storage and resale business, he has shifted toward a more low-key lifestyle. His focus has largely moved to running his bar and restaurant, choosing stability over the high-pressure environment of televised auctions. Which Storage Wars cast member's story left the deepest impact on you? Do you think the personal struggles of these cast members were overlooked, while fans focus only on their on-screen drama? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.